Well, audience, thank you once again for joining us on Way of the Warrior. My name's Trevor Martin, the host, and I've got with me today, and I gotta say it, one badass warrior, Atlas Aultman. Like I gotta tell you, I'm very, very honored that you have decided to come on Way of the Warriors. I just want to start this out by saying thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, Trevor. Hey man, thanks for having me. Everyone sees a military guy, they immediately think I'm a door kicker and a trigger puller. A warrior is in many capacities doing the best that he can do at anything that he's trying to do. And I see that coming out of you and your show and your guests. So thank you so much for having me on. This is an honor. It really is.
Well, I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me, seriously. I know we've spoken a little bit before, came on the show and I got to know a little bit about you, but I will say this. If if you have been a guest on my brother Charles Wallace's show and you
Yeah.
have, like, I already
Yeah.
know like you're top notch. So a little holler out to Charles there. But and I absolutely, not gonna spoil it for anybody, but I love that show. And audience, if you have the chance, go watch it because it will move you. It definitely will. So one of the things, Atlas, that we do here on Way of the Warriors, I kind of like to rewind and I like to ask people, hey, take us back, right? Take us back to and bring us along, you know, to your past as we start to kind of look at what makes you tick. We heard, hey, I'm not necessarily a door kicker, so definitely want to hear more about what how you do visualize yourself. And
Yeah.
as you kind of take us along, I really hope, and I'm going to stop for a second, really hope that you talk a little bit about the book that you've
All right.
written, Rule of Three. um I absolutely love it. It's very, very hard for me to put down, and as I'm taking breaks from at work, I'm picking this back up. But I'm excited to hear a little bit about your past, man.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. Yeah, so I was a military kid from my first memory. When I was a little kid, everyone's got a sad story, no one cares, but mine goes something like this. My mom and dad got a divorce, and I lived with my grandpa. My grandpa was this guy right here. It's him getting a Purple Heart in Vietnam, this little green beret on and everything. So whenever I was a kid, my first memories were this man, and that was my first man in my life. And we lived outside of a base where my mom eventually met my dad, and he adopted me, and we moved in with his family. So I've always been kind of a bolt on, but I've always wanted to be that guy. So my
Yeah.
whole life, my mom, she told me, she's like, hey, I named you Joshua Michael, and that means leader of warriors. So one day when you get old enough, you're going to go in and carry on the family legacy, right? His dad was my great grandfather was a police captain in the Boston area. He actually brought the Boston Strangler to jail. So there's been a long like history of like our bloodline carrying some service to it, right? And I always thought that was really cool. So I wanted to be like them my whole childhood. I watched movies like Commando and like Rambo. You know what I mean? I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
sucking all this in, thinking that the number one thing that I can do is go be a badass like these guys, right? And when I took my test to get in the military, my dad was talking to me. My adopted dad, he's my only dad I've ever known. He's a guy, man. He used to protect me as a kid. I had a surgery, and I was not allowed to get a spanking. I thought that was an open invitation to be a bad boy. So, I got in trouble. I got spanked, and my dad went in and beat the crap out of that principal, and that was my dad. He had my back, and I loved him very deeply. He was a man's man, and he was the dad he didn't have to be. And then we went back in the army, and then I learned about the military family and how that works. My whole childhood was trying to be this guy that everyone thinks, is cool. And no one cares, man. That's what I found out. My dad told me at 18, he's like, "Hey, man, you can go do all this stuff. You can go be a special forces, Green Beret, Ranger. You can go be a SEAL. You can go do all that stuff. But is that really what you want to do?" And as an 18-year-old without a fully developed brain, a bunch of friends in my ear telling me, this is the way to go. I listened to my dad, man. And my dad was like, of all the jobs that the military is offering you, you need to go in the Air Force and you need to take this job. And the job that I went into as an 18-year-old was a paper pusher, dude. I was a paper pusher. I was an admin guy. I messed with records. I put messages in front of general officers. That's what I did. And best job ever. Like this is the job that no one talks about. I don't see Rambo getting any paper cuts. Neither did I, by the way. I'm just saying, like all the things that you would think were manly, I got to see them in a different light, and it shifted my worldview. Because the whole time I thought I was learning how to be, masculine man. I was just learning how to make decisions better, and I was studying
Yeah.
how they make decisions, and then I was put right next to these decision makers at a very early age, and it allowed me to make a decision that changed the course of the way the Air Force promotion system worked. And that got me a promotion, and it got me elevated. And then they asked me when I was in the Air Force if I wanted to finish my degree, and of course I was like yes. They paid for it, and since then they paid for 4 degrees. I did 27 and a half years in the military, and I went through the White House for the Obama administration. I worked in advancing him and working with Secret Service, not Secret Service, by the way. Working with HMX, not a Marine. Working with Air Force One, not part of the air crew that was part of the Air Force One. I got to be in all these different worlds because of the initial discussion I had with my dad. And he was like, of all these jobs, this is the one that you will benefit from the most. And he was freaking right. So, um, I advocate for all that stuff. I did special operations later in my career. It took me like 20 years to get into the community. I applied, I assessed, I got told maybe not now. All the things that people talk about. It took me decades to get into the special operations community in an actual special operations unit, and then I did a couple of those units, and I had a great career standing on the sidelines of history and watching a lot of people make really big decisions that you will read in history books for years to come. And I don't take that lightly, man. So that's my past. That's my past. And over the last couple of
Yeah.
years, I tried to give that back to the world. So I guess I'll talk about this book. So,
Oh
rule
yeah.
of three is what I found. I found that if you give people more than three things, that's too much. They can't handle it. So, three is the magic number. 3.14 is pi, right? How many strikes until you're out? If you want to win the game in basketball, where do you shoot from? Which line? There's three teams on a football team. There's a triangle in jujitsu. Everything that you think
Ah,
about in life, it structures back to this strong pyramid of threes, and we're conditioned to think in threes as children. The boy cried wolf 3 times before he got eaten by that wolf. Pinocchio lied 3 times before he wasn't a boy. All of the blow your house down 3 times before the big bad wolf can't do it anymore. Everything's conditioned to threes, and so I saw it in politics. Whenever the president was making speeches, he would say, "And this, and this, and this, blah." And now you'll never, ever not hear things like this level of three. So I thought about
yeah.
that, and I was like, how can I give that to my kids? Like, what are the three most
Mm,
important things that I can tell my kids that would help them all off into their life? And I wrote down a bunch of stories, and that's in the book. If you want to learn
yeah.
how I got accused of Grand Theft Auto and stealing a Secret Service vehicle, that's one of the favorites people like to go to. I didn't steal it, man. I had the keys, but it doesn't matter. I got accused of it. But that's a whole story. If you want to hear about the first time I ever put the president on the phone and everything, that's all in there. But there's three things that you need to know about your life, and they'll change your life. And those three things are people, time, and money. If you can focus your life on which people you hang around, how you spend your time, and where your money goes, those are the most important decisions. And I'm not just making that up, man. Let me prove it to you. If you have a car problem, what do? You ask these questions, right? You ask, how long is it going to take for this car problem to go away? How much money is it going to cost me to get this thing back online? Then who can do it? And or you go, how much money is this going to cost me? How much time am I not going to have a vehicle? And then you find out who you're going to do it. Either way, they're wrong. That's the wrong way to look at it, but that's the way we've been conditioned to look at it. Common misplaced judgment is you're going to ask those three questions in the wrong order, and you should always ask them in this order. And this is how it's going to change your life. This is how it changed everyone's life who I've talked to. You ask, who can fix this problem? That's your first question. It's always about people, man. It's always about experts. And if you can ask who is going to fix this problem and find the answer to that, they're going to usually tell you, I can fix it for this amount of money and this amount of time. And I love the car example because I've tried to fix my car in the past and replaced a lot of things that didn't need to be replaced. You know what I mean? Spent a lot more time doing it. And then I brought it to an expert and they were like, yeah, this is a $10 issue. You could have just brought it to me. Why didn't you? Oh, you know, as a man, we've all done it. We've all
Oh
done it.
yeah.
So that's
Just did it with the Harley.
yeah, yeah, Harley, $100 at least every time you. That's what HD stands for, right? $100. So it's the case in point. That's why I wrote the book. That's the structure of the book. The book has a bunch of lessons learned and best practices in there from people who are making wartime decisions, which is one of the guys on the back of my book here. I'm gonna redesign the cover, but General Clary was my boss in Iraq, and he made a lot of decisions. He was the top Air Force guy in Iraq while I was there. He made a lot of decisions that changed the course of how that thing was going, and really did some really fantastic things. And I got to watch him make all those decisions, then help him with my aspects of how that decision would make. And we turned multiple year plan into solution in months, and it was
Yeah.
because of his leadership and then his decision making and then him finding the right people. And I was one of them. I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back. I was like looking around. I'm a captain at the time. I'm an O3, and there was a colonel and a bunch of other colonels around me, and I'm the only captain, right? Until a security guy came in. He was a captain as well. But I was like, what the hell am I doing here? And he was looking at people, and he found me out of combat com as a technologist who wasn't afraid to push the envelope or go get shot at. And he's like, "Come on, man, I got a job for you, and you're going to advise these people." And then he introduced me to, these senior I was a senior advisor. I was advising people from the civilian sector on how they should run their country, and we did it. We did it really well, and was really proud to be a part of that team. And yeah, man, I'll shut up. I'm just rambling on
No,
now.
well, that's I mean, this is literally for you. This is your time. But so thank you for all of that. And I know we've talked about it. And you said before the last time we spoke, instead of saying, because everybody says thank you for your service,
Yeah.
thank you for your sacrifice,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
your sacrifice. Will definitely be like, oh, you thought about what I'm doing.
Yeah,
And that goes for police officers, that goes for fire
for sure.
department, it goes for EMS, it goes for anyone who's of service, man. It was pushed into the military, I think, because of the Vietnam era response where people were spitting in people's faces coming back from war because they saw war for the first time. And I don't wish
Sure.
war on anyone, man. I don't. Um,
Yep.
Being a warrior means so many different things to so many different people. And what I will tell you as a warrior is something that's inside of you. You don't have to go looking for it. It's an everyday
Preach.
battle, you know?
Yeah.
It's an everyday battle. And you're
I
battling with something, man. Always.
yeah.
As a man,
A hundred
especially.
percent, 100%, 100% agree with you. And I want to go back. We were talking about not a door kicker, talking about, hey, look, I dad said, hey, you need to go after this job. So I listened, then I applied, and then I did. Then I went out and I got that job.
Yep.
And then you go through this series, and all of a sudden you find yourself, you said yourself, like, hey, who do you surround yourself with? Well, you find yourself being like, hey, man, somebody says, hey, I got a job for you. And all of a sudden, you're standing there taking stock of who you're actually surrounded by. And I want that's perfect segue into a chapter at the beginning of chapter two. You say, and then I'm going to flip back to the page that's right before that. But beginning of chapter two, it says, rule number one. And audience, I'm not going to read too much of this. I'm not going to spoil it for you because you have to go get this book, seriously. But rule number one, people are and should always be the first priority. Paraphrase, if you take care of your people, your people will take care of you. And it's that's a pretty simple rule to grasp. You state that, but on the page before that, we're talking about that. We're talking about people. We're talking about that circle that that you find yourself surrounded by those people. Leaders who work together win together. And this is what I love. You say it's a picture of you and it was somebody else, and you'll say, I will never forget this moment where a recognized leader, so not just a leader, a recognized leader recognized me. And then you talk about who it is, and folks get the book and you can find out who it is. But I will never forget this moment where a recognized leader, and I really appreciate, man, you're talking about people and specific people. And now you've just seen not just a leader, but a recognized leader. Other people have recognized this individual, and
Yeah.
I'm assuming hold him in high regards. And now that individual is recognizing just who exactly you are. That had
Yeah.
to be pretty impactful in your world.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really realize that they're living in history until it is history. And then they'll look back at it as a fond moment when they could have just enjoyed it while they were there. And
For sure. Wow.
everyone,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
everyone out there, like you're leading your life. And if you're not, someone else is, and you need to take control and lead your life.
Yes.
There's a
Yeah.
there's a lot to it, but if you don't recognize yourself as a leader, you never will be. You're going to always follow the course of whatever someone's got stacked up for you. The example I'll give you today that's very relevant today is you're fed things on social media. I think 60% of your day now, an average American spends 60% of their day in a virtual world behind a screen. That's a computer screen, a telephone. It doesn't matter, a TV. That's a crazy amount of time where you're letting things come in your eyeballs and in your ear holes. And then guess what happens? It comes out your mouth, man, because you become conditioned to whatever your environment is. We're homeostatic organisms as humans. We're always taking in whatever we can and trying to make our ability to survive stronger. So whenever we're conditioned to hear all these things, whenever we're given all these things, we produce a similar product that comes out of us through actions and words. And that is scary for some people who aren't in control of what they're seeing and what they're hearing. And that's all stuff I've never shared before on any other show. Because before this, we didn't have someone getting shot on social media for everyone to see who wasn't a politician and who wasn't really in the limelight for things that were bad. I mean, he had a bad name to some communities, but Charlie Kirk is who I'm talking about. Charlie Kirk, if you go back and actually watch his stuff, he was pro family, pro Christianity, and then he opened up a mic to everyone who wanted to talk. And that, my friend, is rare. And we watched that guy get killed, murdered. It's sad, but it's the life that we live in. And why? Whenever you start asking the question, why did that happen? What
Yeah.
do you get? What do you think the answer is? Why did that happen? Was it his Republican conservative parents who rose him to like listen to other people? Because that's what some people are saying. Was it influences that he learned at college? So that's what some people are saying. No, man, it was what he allowed in his brain pan, man. And you can't argue against the result of that. It's sad. It's really bad. But you listening to this show can take control of that now. And I'll tell you how. If you pull out your phone and go to your favorite platform, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, doesn't matter, X. Look at your top three posts. Whatever those top three posts are from your favorite platform, that is what the internet is telling you you are. And you're telling it that's who you are. And it
Ah,
changes every day, man. It changes every day. So if you're not paying attention to those top three posts, whenever you pick up your phone, whether it's the first thing in the morning or after your workout, whenever you're paying attention to those first three posts, that's painting a picture for you like a mirror. And you need to pay attention to that and lead your influences. Just saying. That's how you do it.
100%. You were talking about the what we all experienced, with Charlie Kirk, and I wanted to point out. I grabbed my phone while you're talking. It said, because that pinged something that I read this morning. It says the U.S. is experiencing national trauma, and it explains why so many of us feel miserable. Right? You said yourself, like we witnessed something. We all people witnessed something horrible, non-politician, but witnessed something horrible happen from one human being acting against another human being in a horrible way. And we got to see and watch. And then, of course, you have the parties or the individuals, I shouldn't say parties, sorry, the individuals that really dissect this video, break it down, and then watching it over and over and over. And then you have other, it's just, it just doesn't stop.
Repeat.
And there's,
On repeat, man.
it's a, yeah,
I got sent a video this morning from a good friend of mine. I'll leave his name out because he is a public figure, and it's a rather long video, and it's talking about a second shooter and inciting, a government plot into what happened. And yeah, man, it's here's the next level. This is what we're moving into now. Did what we witness actually happen like we're being told that it happened? That always happens in humanity. Look at
yeah,
every assassination attempt and
oh
murder.
yeah,
It always happens. Like, is what we're being told the truth? And that's why we have trials and cases and background investigations. It happened with the Trump assassination attempts. All that stuff happened, right? But what's really, really crazy is we now don't believe it sooner than we ever have before in history. It's taken like weeks
true,
or months to come to the conclusion that we've come to a week later. You know what I mean? Like it's of the recording of this video. It's a week after he died. So Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk said, I hope you enjoyed your first week in heaven. I'm like, oh, rip out my heart. But really, I'm like, wow, it's been a week and we have been deep diving on. Did the shot come from where it came from? Was the rifle matching up? Is the trajectory of the bullet? And all these people have different opinions, man, and they're experts. So, like, there's a couple people that I really trust, that have given me some really good information. And this morning it was just like, oh my gosh, man, why are we continuously doing this? We don't trust our government, and that's a problem, my friend.
a huge
Another thing
problem.
that popped up. I gotta talk about this. The Jimmy Kimmel thing. The Jimmy Kimmel
Yeah,
thing. So like Jimmy Kimmel gets canceled indefinitely, and now he's back on. But like during the first one, I was like, "Hey guys, what do you think about this? Was that too far?" And people were like, "This is controlled by the government." I'm like, "The government does not control the media in the United States." And they were like, "Well, this is it," And I had people, very high level people, reach out to me because I have a larger platform than I used to. And some of the things I was saying was like, hey, the government does not control the media. That is 100% true. The decision was made by a CEO. I study decisions for a living, man. That's how I make my money. So I'm like,
right.
he had bad ratings. He did these things. They were looking for an excuse. He wasn't, they're probably going to replace it with another show. Now he's back on. Proof that the government does not control the media. But I don't know how it's going to get spun, but like all this stuff is happening and it's divisive, man. Um, uh, I gotta say, like when I was growing up, we had a right and a left, and we need a Democratic and a Republic. We need two parties, man. We need that. There has to be opposing opinions because there has to be thought that's placed into a dialogue or a
Agreed.
debate. There has to be, man. There should be
Agreed.
opposing, but there shouldn't be far left and right. Like that stuff, this is such a small percentage and it's getting more highlighted than ever before. And I hate that for America, man. That's
Yeah.
divisive. This is divisive. This right here, healthy. And I want to get back to this, man. When are we going to get back to this? Because
How do you think we get started? Oh, go ahead.
yeah. No, as an independent voter, man, as an independent man, as a free man, my vote doesn't belong to a party. It belongs to
Same.
who is correct. And right now, guys, I'll say it. Right now, the party that's correct is on the right side. And that's just my opinion. And you guys can hate me for that. I've been unfollowed by 100 people this week because I believe that Charlie Kirk was trying to do the good thing, and then he was trying to push our rights into the right places, and I lost a lot of followers from that. I don't care. I will say right now, what I see happening is the right side's not trying to retaliate with violence. The right side's trying to unify people, and the right side is holding rallies for people to come together and grieve over something that was dramatic. uh, it was drastic change, and I see the left trying to pull that down. That's today. Maybe it'll change tomorrow. But I know in the past the left has done a good job with explaining things. And then, I want people to realize that their life shouldn't belong to some party somewhere all the time. They have to still
Agreed.
think, they have to control themselves and whatever it is that they're thinking.
100%, absolutely. So when you look forward, when you look to the future, Atlas, what are some of your, you said you think it through. So let's go with this. What are your top three priorities for the next couple of years? Like, what do you want? What's your mission?
Yeah, man. So what I've been doing is building a podcast platform. That's been my number one priority for the last 11 months.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and so what I've focused 100% of my effort into is the podcast, and it's growing at right now it's growing at about 4,000 a week, but it's been up to 5,000 a week of with followers. And what I'm trying to do is I spend my money and my time and I get people that cost money into a studio to talk into a microphone and spill the things that they normally get paid to spill, like secrets of their success, their story, and how they overcame it. And what I'm finding is a lot of general knowledge that eventually I'll
yeah,
put out into like quarterly forums. I'm going to have one in November where I'll bring everybody together and talk to them about how I did the podcast, how I grew the podcast, right? I'm not going to gatekeep how I did that. I'm going to tell people if you want a platform that specifically is servicing a specific audience, this is how you can grow it to reach more of those people because no one's doing that. No one shares secrets. But my whole thing is I want to build this platform so that I can get this information out and be a part of the good noise that's out there.
yeah,
Like reality strikes. Podcast is a lot of talking, man, and not everybody wants to
yeah.
hear everything. It's like church when you go to church. If you go to church, there's parts of the message that are for you, and then the rest of it's like, I'm sitting in a chair. Podcast is very much like that, except for you can listen to it in 2x, so it doesn't take as much time.
Right.
Uh, and so I'm big on podcasting. Podcasting is my future. Podcasting is the new book. I talked at TEDx or TED Atlanta last year about podcasting has become the new book. If it's not a book that's on audio, most people don't read it. So you're reading a book. I read books. Most of the most successful people in the world read books. Everyone else listens to them. So they listen to podcasts now as their books, and the general population gets more out of a podcast than they do out of a book, and that's just where
I'd
it's going.
agree.
So, uh, some say that the podcasts have steered the elections. There's some say that podcasts are the way of the future. Someone said that this guy who just got shot was a podcaster. He was just a podcaster. No, a podcast opens the door to a whole lot of other things. And the reality is I'm 100% on podcasting. I'll write another book. I'm an
Right.
author, so
Good.
I'll write another book. I have 5 books. They're all they're all bestsellers. The last one I wrote got number one in 12 categories, and that put me on a lot of stages and a lot of platforms. So I mean, it was about a lot though. So I gotta whittle it down and make it specific. So I'll write more books. I'll do more stages, but I don't do every stage. I get asked to do a lot of stages, and I want to spend time with my family, man. At the end of the day, and at the end of my life, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that if they've been around people who are dying or terminally ill, that they want to have a microphone brought to them so they can say one final message. They want to be around their loved ones, man. And
Preach.
that's reality. If you're not spending time with your family, you're gonna lose them. And I want my friends to realize that they're family, so I spend a lot more time with them. So my priorities are, to give more, obviously through podcasts and then through books and then to my family, man. It's that way, but it's all whatever God tells me to do, man. I say yes and amen a lot.
When did can I? Well, this is kind of a surprise. I mean, I stutter over that right there, but um, I struggle with my faith, and I'm not. I talk about it a lot. I've talked about it a lot on LinkedIn. Well, I talk a lot, I guess, on social media. And it's funny. I some of my art, I draw for therapy, and some of my art, yeah, kind of depicts that struggle. Sometimes I can draw a picture of Jesus on the cross. Sometimes I can draw a picture of you know, uh, an individual struggling with demons or whatever it might be. When did you when did you realize that you wanted to become Christian, or that's what you believe? If you feel comfortable sharing, if not, just go
No,
past.
no, I'm not going to David Goggins you. Yes, I believe in Jesus, and that's it. You probably saw that clip. Let's not talk
Oh
about
yeah,
that. No,
oh
man,
yeah.
I'm uh, I'm not bashing David Goggins. I'm glad he proclaimed the name of Jesus and all that, but I think it's in everyone's wheelhouse if you're a Christian to tell people you're a Christian. You don't have to convince them to be. You just have to tell them that you are, so they can look at you and say, "Do I want to be like this guy?" And then you set the example. That's your job, man. That's how you bring people to Christ. If you're not a pastor, which is noble, then you're preaching through your actions. And so the first thing on my profile is the little cross because I'm a Christian. Do I do everything perfectly? Hell to the no. That's why I'm a Christian. I am going to tell you, there is no perfect person except for Jesus Christ, and he had a perfect life, and he was prosecuted by this world. So whenever I get prosecuted in the comments for something that I believe, it ain't Jesus, man. Man, this is light work. So I am not going to be offended by anything that you got going on, and you won't put demons in my comments. Go ahead. But that's the example that I'm going to set. But I'm also a table flipper, right? If you're going to come in my house and do things that are against what I believe and they're going to bring violence, hate, contempt, or any other sin into my world, I'm going to flip that table and tell you you're not welcome. Because I'm not a what one of my best guests, one of my recent guests told me, I'm not a pussified Christian. I'm a violent person if I need to be, and I don't think Jesus was a turn the other cheek kind of guy all the time, man. It doesn't look like that in the Bible to me. So I'm a Christian. How I came into that faith, of course, I was introduced to it as a child, and then I went to church and I didn't pay any attention. And I went to Sunday school because I had to, and I listened to some
Yeah.
boring stuff that colored the Jesus books and all that. And I was like, whatever, this is just what everyone does. And then I went to different countries and I realized everyone indoctrinates their kids into something. There's a structure. It's called humanity, where people want to belong to something that's bigger than themselves, and that is a religion. I'm not really a religious person, so I found Jesus on a helicopter, it was a Marine helicopter, CH-46, and I might have been 47. We were flying over Al Assad. It was a Marine crew, and I was escorting two technicians from the Iraq Civil Aviation Authority. They were going to go fix their equipment, and I was helping them get there. So I have two people from Iraq in Iraq and a bunch of Marines, and that's it. That's the helicopter. And we lift up, and we came under fire and the Marines answered the fire back. And in my mind, I was very calm. I was like, well, they're doing their job. This is going to happen. And if anything happens to me, I know where I'm going. So I am not worried. I said yes and amen. And this is part of being in a war zone, a combat area, whatever you want to call it. It's part of that. So while that's going on and I'm calm and the Marines are calm, I look over at the people who are not Christians. And they are very, very, very scared. And I won't tell you what I saw because it's nasty. But what I will tell you, it's a human response, and they were visibly scared. And then I started to ask myself this question: why is it that they're so scared and I am not? All of our lives are threatened. All of our lives are being, placed into the crucible of life, right? And are we going to live? Or are we going to die? We're in the air. If we go down, we're going to die. You know, if we get shot out of this helicopter, it's a helicopter. It, it has no windows in it because it belongs to the Marines. There is no structure to this thing. I'm not living. So when you ask that question, why am I calm and they are not? It isn't because, again, it's not because I'm a guy that has, a special helmet or, a flight suit or anything like that, all the operator stuff. It's not because of that, man, because I'm not. I'm not that guy. I am a guy who makes things happen for other people, and I always have been. So if I'm helping these people and they're freaked out and I'm not, what's the difference? Well, it's my religion. No, it's my faith. I believe internally that I know what's going to happen when I am no longer part of this earth. I believe that I am a tool for God. And whenever God wants me to become a part of his army, I get promoted. That's all that happens, man. I get to be part of something that's extremely bigger and way more powerful. And that to me is a win. So that's why I'm calm. And them and their religion, they're Muslims. So they believe that what they do on this earth it has an effect on where they go. They don't believe that Jesus died for their sins, even though the Quran teaches that Jesus does die and that he does go to heaven and Muhammad doesn't. All of that stuff is part of their religion. They don't see that. They see what they do with their actions either get them someplace that they want to be in the future or that doesn't. And so when you start to compare that and like Judaism, right? Like when you start to look at how the Jewish religion is structured, they don't even believe Jesus existed. They believe he's a con man. He told a bunch of stories and that he's in hell. So like when you start looking at the God of love, the God of joy, the God of forgiveness, that's the God that I believe in and that I feel inside of me because I don't want to fight. I will. I don't want to be in a place that there's no peace, but I will. And I'm comfortable in any environment because I have this armor of God placed over me that no one can see. And my invisible friend is super powerful and has been there in many instances. In fact, one of the biggest Bible verses you'll ever see in a combat zone is Psalms. I think it's 93. I don't even know the psalm, but it goes like this: even though I walk through the shadow of death, I feel no evil, right? So that's you'll see it everywhere. It's posted everywhere because everyone kind of gets that feeling whenever they're
Hmm.
placed in an environment where they might lose their life and they realize, man, it ain't what everyone thinks it is, man. You know.
Well, I will tell you right now, like I'm all smiles because one of the things that I admire about some people that do proclaim their faith is the passion in which they speak about it. And so thank you for providing that, that today. I'm excited. I was excited to hear the story. And the biggest takeaway from that was actually you sitting there going, why am I so calm
Yeah.
and other parties are not? Because as you're telling the story and talking about how calm you are, I'm sitting here thinking, huh, what if I was sitting across from Atlas in that chopper? And then you made the whole Marine comment. There's no structure to the thing, and that's hella funny for me. But so, if I'm sitting across from you and there's bullets whizzing by and there's, and then like, hey, this thing goes down, we ain't living. What's going to go through? Am I going to be calm? Am I going to be, am I going to
You'd be
panic or
surprised,
what I
brother.
panic,
I mean, you'd be surprised. So everyone that I talked to has had a similar experience. Now, I'm not going around talking about like, oh, I got shot at and all this. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is chaos ensued and I was calm. And it was because of my inner faith and who I am. And you'll find a lot more people in church when they're deployed in a combat zone than you will anywhere else because bombs are real, bullets are real, and the threat is real, right? And real people want to do real damage all the time to people who are just trying to do good. And we saw that
Mm,
unfold on the world stage just this past week. And it's unfortunate that it has to be like that. But brother, it's different. It hits different. It hits different than anything you'll ever experience whenever your life is threatened and you know where you're going to go. And if you don't know,
mm.
I mean, there's plenty of people that can tell you how to do that. It's just accepting. My Lord is Jesus Christ. Accepting Him in your life, and then you say a prayer, and that's it, man. That's all that happens, and you're good. You get written in the book, man. You repent on anything that you're doing bad, not meaning you're not going to do it again, but you're going to do it again sometimes, and you repent again. You know, it's that's there's a whole lot of structure to this. There's not any rules though. You know, you know if you're good, and then that's what I believe. But here's the other thing that people fail to realize about Christianity, because I've had people in my life come up to me and they think I'm going to judge them as a Christian. You know, people who
Sure.
are trans or gay or whatever. It doesn't matter what they think I'm going to do. They come at me and they think I'm going to judge them because of who they are, and that's not what Christians do, man. That's not what Christians do at all. I don't care. Whatever your life choices are your life choices, and you get to do anything you want to do in your life, and you have the freedom and the option to do that. If you want to make your life whatever it is, that's on you, man. But that doesn't affect me and my relationship with my God. And I'm happily working with a whole bunch of people. I have people on my team that don't believe what I believe, and I don't care. It's like, it's your choice to make. I don't need to beef with you, and I'm going to bring the peace because I'm the example. I'm
Yeah.
professing that I'm a Christian, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna ensue violence. If violence happens, I'm prepared, but I'm not doing it, man. It ain't me that started it. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, Alice, I gotta tell you, this has probably been one of the best conversations uh I've had on Way of the Warrior. And I like to end up or end the episode by asking you, where can people get it? Because audience, you need to connect with this man. First of all, you need to get the book and books, but this one for sure. Uh, but you need to connect with this man. Atlas, how can people get a hold of you? What social media platforms are you on? What's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, daily. I'm on LinkedIn at Atlas Aultman. So Aultman. Atlas is just like the Greek god. A call sign that was given to me in Afghanistan. So there's a story there. If you want to watch that, you can watch on my TEDx South Lake Tahoe talk. It's got hundreds of thousands have seen that one. So go watch that. Um, but weekly, I do a weekly show. I drop it on Sundays, and that's Targeted Podcast with Atlas Altman. We're a top 2% show now, uh,
That's
and that's
awesome, bro.
10 months in. We made top 2%, so we'll be at top 1% here pretty soon, and I'm working on that. And then Instagram, I'm also out there on a personal side. If you want to watch any of my TV appearances or me help with the news, that all goes to Instagram. I usually don't bleed that over into to LinkedIn, but who knows? So those are the ways you can reach
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Oh
Happy
yeah.
to come talk. I've talked to a lot of people from military, police, and fire about personal leadership and how that works and how to make better decisions that'll change your life. Yeah, I can do that as well. You can hit me on LinkedIn would be the preferred method because you'll actually get me. If
Yeah.
you hit Insta, you might get my team.
10-4. Well, I gotta tell you, I hit you on LinkedIn, and I'm glad I bullseyed that. I'm glad I got you on here. But more importantly, I would say I'm glad I got to hear just about who you are. Like the show aside, man, it's nice to be able to talk to somebody that's authentic, that is that has built themselves up from some very, very solid advice that they listened to by somebody that loved them, right? You talk about putting people first, and somebody clearly gave you a really good example of that. They put you first and said, "Hey, I want you to be successful. Here's what you need to do. So, son, listen up." So I can't wait. I can't wait to finish this book. Audience, go grab the book. Atlas, my man. This won't be the last conversation we have for sure. So I'm hella glad that you were on the show, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it, man.
No
Been awesome.
problem. Audience, we're out. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.